Once the spaceman of Kiss, launching riffs like rockets and platform boots, Ace Frehley now steps slower, hair thin but eyes still gleaming beneath the brim of a studio cap. New York groove blasted through arenas. Now he shapes soundboards, mentoring shred-hungry kids chasing their own orbit. Long cool woman in a black dress, pulsed through jukeboxes and transistor radios. Clark's voice, once crystalline, now rasps with earned grit. No longer fronting Hollies, the 83-year-old pens lyrics in quiet corners. His silver frame stooped but his pen sharp, chronicling decades in minor chords. He flew like an eagle across FM waves. Now Steve Miller, 81, wears years with grace in his gait and gravel in his voice. The arenas have faded, but his Strat still sings in private jam sessions. Once a chart slayer, he's now a blues historian, preserving what's streaming nearly silenced. Remember the shirtless firebrand who led Grand Funk Railroad through We're an American Band? These days, Mark Farner's silver ponytail sways in smaller venues, replays with soul, not fury. He chose faith over fame, trading stadium noise for heartfelt solos and heartfelt causes. Like a vinyl pressed by time, McCartney's tone has mellowed, but its melody lingers. From Beatles mania to symphonic suites, the 82-year-old's voice may waver, but his legacy composes onward. No longer the boy with the bass, he's a sage of songcraft, guiding generations through melody. Once the velvet backbone of the Moody Blues, John Lodge, now 79, no longer rides the psychedelic wave but curates it. Hair white, stance humble, he mentors prog rock's next architects while revisiting Ride My Seesaw with a voice weathered, but precise. Like the analog he still champions. All the young dudes made him the voice of glam rebellion. Now 86, Ian Hunter's curls have faded to frost, but his lyrics cut sharper than ever. No longer draped in glitter, he crafts songs in solitude, choosing pen over spotlight, still channeling London's lost youth through season chords. He once stitched sonic cathedrals with Yes, fingers flying like sparks across fretboards. Today, Steve Howe 78 plays slower, deliberate notes, less pyrotechnics, more poetry. His posture is stooped, but his mind maps progressions few dare follow. Vinyl or digital, his tone still mystifies. Rock On once pulsed with his rebel allure. Now at 78, David Essex leans into storytelling, not swagger. The tousled hair is tamed, the voice grittier, yet his eyes still gleam with mischief. From pop idol to stage writer, he's embraced the long arc, casting new spells from old stardust. Once the thunder behind Genesis and the aching voice of In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins now performs seated, cane in hand, his voice softened but still haunted. At 74, health has stilled his drumming, but not his influence. He mentors from the margins, shaping rhythms without striking a single skin. Before we continue these amazing celebrity transformations, here's a quick challenge for you. Can you subscribe to Then vs. Now Legends in the next 5 seconds? Smash that subscribe button and join us on this journey through time with your favorite stars. Like a blues torch passed through generations, Paul Rodgers' voice once lit up Free and Bad Company. At 75, his once explosive range has settled into gravel and grit. Though arenas are rarer, he handpicks projects with care, choosing depth over volume, still a craftsman of pure vocal fire. I Ain't Missing You echoed through heartbreak anthems. John Waite's voice, once pristine, now cracks with purpose. At 72, his lean frame and silver stubble grace indie venues, not pop charts. But he writes with more bite than ever, threading past fame into present truth, one verse at a time. Once the roaring prophet of the working man, now Bruce Springsteen delivers hushed ballads from behind reading glasses. At 75, the swagger remains, but it walks beside reflection. Born to Run became a memoir, and The Boss, now grayer, still maps America's soul one weathered lyric at a time. From Whitesnake's leather-clad wails to tender studio sessions, David Coverdale, at 73, now trades high-octane screams for smoky croons. The golden locks have faded, the stage strut softened, but his voice, roughened like aged whiskey, still seduces every note he sculpts in solitude. He once backflipped in leather, Van Halen's Jester King. Now 70, David Lee Roth paints, writes, and spars with silence more than sound. The hair's thinner, the antics rarer, but his presence crackles. No nostalgia act. He reshapes his chaos into commentary, still refusing to walk a straight line. He once prowled stages like a panther in tight pants. Now 81. Mick Jagger's moves are sharper than expected, slower only in shadow. The voice bears gravel, not glam, but Jumpin' Jack Flash still erupts from his lips with defiance. He didn't just survive the times, he kept rewiring them. Fortunate Son, once blasted from speakers as a rebel yell, today, John Fogerty, 79, plays that same anthem with seasoned gravity. The flannel's still there, but the fire's deeper, not louder. Having battled label wars in silence, he now owns his sound and teaches others to guard theirs. Behind Queen's thunder, Roger Taylor once shattered snares with surgical fury. At 75, his blonde mane faded to silver. He crafts with restraint, not rawness. No longer just a drummer, he curates legacy, composing, mentoring, and ensuring the echoes of Radio Gaga never dim in the digital age. Do you feel like we do? Once pulsed through stadiums with his talkbox magic, now 75, Peter Frampton plays seated, hands slowed by muscle disease but heart undimmed. No longer chasing charts, he's archiving emotion, turning limitation into artistry in stripped-down, soul-bearing tours. Like a cathedral built from echoes, Peter Gabriel's voice now carries more shadow than shimmer. At 75, the former Genesis frontman crafts immersive soundscapes from quiet studios. Sledgehammer shook him TV. Now he moves minds, not bodies, blending activism with art and sculpted sonic visions. He once bent strings into sorrow with Pink Floyd. Today, David Gilmour, 79, plays in dusklit chapels and country barns. The notes are fewer, the silence is deeper. With silver hair and measured breath, he sculpts sound like memory itself, proof that even echoes can carry new weight. Once the sharp voice of the Police, now a barefoot bard in intimate halls, Sting, 73, has traded staccato urgency for meditative grace. The blonde spikes are gone, the falsetto subdued, but his lyrics cut deeper, shaped by yoga, lute strings, and a restless search for the soul beneath the sound. He summoned thunder with Led Zeppelin. Now Jimmy Page, 81, guards the archives more than the stage. His curls turn snow white, his hands slower, but his mind still maps sonic labyrinths. No longer the sorcerer in spotlight, he's become the keeper of myth, preserving riffs like sacred texts. From the swirling organ of Gimme Some Lovin' to traffic's soulful detours, Steve Winwood, now 77, drifts between jazz and folk in quiet corners. The boyish tenor has deepened, the curls grayed, but his fingers still glide with grace, tracing melodies that refuse to fade with fashion. Dream Weaver floated through the 70s like a cosmic prayer, and when Gary Wright passed in 2023, it echoed still. His hair had grayed, his voice softened, but his spirit lived in synthesizers and stardust. Long before streaming, he imagined sound as dream and left the blueprint behind. He once surfed harmonies with the Beach Boys. Now 84, Mike Love conducts nostalgia with precision. The falsetto has faded, and the boardwalk struts more shuffle than sway, but he's preserved California's soundscape through decades of reinvention, lawsuits, and endless summer echoes. Night Moves once roared from Rust Belt radios. Now at 80, Bob Seger's gravel voice drifts through memory more than arena. He chose farewell tours over fading lights, retiring with dignity and Detroit pride intact. No spectacle, just storytelling, aged in leather and steel. Once called God with a guitar, now Eric Clapton, 80, plays seated, fingers slower but still stirring ghosts from strings. The curls are snow white, the voice weathered by grief and grit. He's walked through addiction, loss, and legacy, emerging not louder, but clearer, like blues through smoke. The quiet Beatles' voice left us in 2001, but George Harrison's spirit hums on in sitars and sunrise chords. He shed fame like a skin, retreating from the mania to gardens and mantras. Here Comes the Sun wasn't just a song. It was his farewell whispered gently into the world's ear. He gave us Jesse's Girl with pop-punk urgency. Now at 75, Rick Springfield balances memoirs and meditation, guitar still slung over lean shoulders. The hair's silver-streaked. The hook's more introspective. A former heartthrob turned healer, he tours not to relive, but to reflect. Once the piano man of packed arenas, now 76, Billy Joel plays fewer notes, but each one lands heavier. The hair is silver, the tempo slower, but Madison Square Garden still fills for his tales. He doesn't chase hits anymore. He curates moments, letting timeless melodies do the heavy lifting. He once looked immortal through smoke and swagger. Now 81, Keith Richards still clutches his Telecaster like a relic. The skin's weathered, the frame wiry, but riffs rise from him like instinct. Not chasing relevance, he tends to the roots, proof that rock's pulse never needed polish. A wider shade of pale floated from cathedrals of sound, and when Gary Brooker passed in 2022, that organ still echoed. The Procol Harum frontman aged into quiet brilliance, his voice a hushed prayer by the end. He left not with fanfare, but with dignity, like a hymn fading into silence. Fleetwood Mac's sonic architect once sculpted chaos into melody. Now 76, Lindsey Buckingham plays with surgical calm. The wild mane is trimmed, the voice more breath than bite, but his fingers still weave tension into beauty. Cast out, come back, cut open. His legacy refuses to resolve cleanly. He once screamed smoke on the water with volcanic force. Now at 79, Ian Gillan delivers each line like a sermon, measured but mighty. The high notes are rarer, the presence undiminished. Deep Purple's frontman now mentors rising metal voices, trading fire for forge, legend for legacy. Cheap Trick's golden voice once soared over power chords. Today, at 75, Robin Zander sings with huskier tones and a wiser edge. The blonde locks are streaked with silver, but charisma still clings to him. Not chasing charts, he leans into cult status, the last glam poet of arena grit. He was the spark that lit a cultural wildfire, hips, heat, and heartbreak. When Elvis died in 1977 at just 42, the world lost more than a king. But beyond rhinestones and Vegas glare, his voice endures in gospel echoes and rebellious growls, forever haunting the blueprint he helped create. The slide guitar on Hotel California was his signature. Now 77, Don Felder plays without eagle's feathers, but with sharpened intent. His posture is straighter, his solos leaner, his focus clear. No longer part of the drama, he teaches precision, string by string, riff by remembered riff. He once howled like a prairie wind. Now at 79, Neil Young's voice has thinned, but his defiance deepens. The hair's grayer, the stance stooped, but he rails against injustice with distortion and conviction. Vinyl or stream, he stays analog in spirit, forever choosing truth over polish. Journey's rhythmic anchor, Ross Valerie, once drove stadium anthems with a quiet pulse. At 75, he stepped back from the limelight but not the craft. Now composing in solitude, his silver hair and thoughtful gaze reflect a bassist who always chose groove over glory and still does. Once the voice of small-town rebellion, John Mellencamp, now 73, growls more than belts, but the grit cuts deeper. The curls are thinned, the cigarettes still linger, and his lyrics now sketch rust and regret. He doesn't sell nostalgia, he interrogates it, canvas in one hand, guitar in the other. He lit up the 70s with molten riffs, then vanished from headlines, not impact. Ronnie Montrose, who died in 2012, was more than a shredder. He was a builder of tone. His work with Sammy Hagar and beyond still fuels guitarists who never knew his name, but chase his sound all the same. The godfather of goth once loomed in smoke and shadows. Now 68, Peter Murphy walks slower, but his voice still drips with theatrical decay. The cheekbones remain sharp, the timbre darker. No longer just Bauhaus frontman, he's become a curator of mood, turning gloom into modern scripture. With Paul Revere and Orators, Mark Lindsay helped soundtrack the 60s in fringe shirts and sharp hooks. At 83, the ponytail's gone, the voice softened, but he still writes, still reflects. Less rebel, more raconteur, he mines past pop stardom for new meaning in quiet rooms. He once rewrote America's conscience with a nasal snarl. Now at 83, Bob Dylan rasps through jazz clubs and cryptic ballads. The curls are silver, the lyrics denser, the myth intact. Never chasing clarity, he remains a moving target, still rearranging truth like verses in the dark. The only Beach Boy who actually surfed, Dennis Wilson, lived fast and faded early, lost in 1983 at just 39. Behind the drums, he brought raw soul to sun-kissed harmonies. His solo work hinted at storms beneath the waves, a troubled heartbeat that pulsed beneath California's perfect sky. He once whispered elegance over Roxy Music's glittering chaos. Now 79, Bryan Ferry moves like silk draped in shadow. The tuxedos remain, the vocals wear more ache than allure. Trading glam for restraint, he paints romance in grayscale, aging not out of style, but deeper into it. He once tore shirts and skin in punk baptismals. Now 78, Iggy Pop still stalks stages, wiry and wild-eyed. The torso's more sinew than spectacle, the voice lower but defiant. No elder statesman, he's punk's restless ghost, growling poetry from scars, still allergic to settling down. He once shrieked from Sabbath's Black Cathedral. Now 76, Ozzy Osbourne speaks in gravel and moves with caution. Parkinson slowed the Prince of Darkness, but not his shadow. Retired from touring, he crafts from the margins, a relic wrapped in myth, still humming with eerie voltage. With REO Speedwagon, Gary Recratha's solos once cut like highway wind, then, in 2015, silence. Gone at 65, he left behind more than licks, gave 70s rock its searing edge. Estranged from fame, he played small-town shows until the end, still chasing connection over comeback. The voice that launched 1,000 anthems, Steve Perry, now 76, rarely sings, but what he does, time bends. Don't Stop Believin' echoes softer now, his range tighter but more vulnerable. After decades of silence and loss, he returned not to reclaim, but to reveal what's left behind. Once the wild card in the Eagles' deck, now 77, Joe Walsh traded hotel rooms for quiet studios, sobriety his longest-running gig. The voice is raspier, the humor intact. He mentors veterans, not just musicians, proof that behind the slurred riffs was always a sharp, giving soul. Feathers, pianos, and spectacles once defined him. Now 78, Elton John wears quieter suits but plays with the same fire. The falsetto has mellowed, the legacy grown. After a farewell soaked in sequins and sincerity, he remains a composer of courage, still rewriting what fame can look like. He once jerked and twitched through Once in a Lifetime. Now 73, David Byrne glides through Broadway with tailored grace. The hair is snow white, the question sharper. No longer chasing cool, he curates curiosity itself, an art pop philosopher still dancing at the edge of convention. He was Bowie's right hand, sculpting glam's glitter with a Les Paul, then gone too soon in 1993. Mick Ronson's name rarely headlined, but his sound shaped a generation. Modest off stage, masterful on it, he died at 46, leaving behind a blueprint in eyeliner, feedback, and finesse. Once the pirate prince of post-punk, now 69, Adam Ant wears less war paint but no less resolve. The jawline softened, the costumes pared back, but he still struts through cult circuits with purpose. More survivor than spectacle, he's turned mania into movement, rebellion into ritual. He once falsettoed over disco floors. Now 78, Barry Gibb sings with a huskier register, heart heavy with Brothers Lost. The curls are ghosted silver, but the melodies endure. Last BG standing, he carries her harmonies like sacred thread, stitching the past into present silence. He once roared, "Won't get fooled again," with lion-hearted force. Now 81, Roger Daltrey growls from a deeper place. The curls are white, the stance less defiant, but his gaze still cuts. Between charity work and stripped-back sets, he's proof the loudest echoes come from earned restraint. He burned fast and bright, the Doors' shaman poet lost in 1971 at just 27. Jim Morrison didn't age, he mythologized. His baritone haunts vinyl like a seance, his lyrics carved into rebellion's bones. He left no comeback, no softening, only a flame that refused to flicker. He once painted his face and screamed through pyrotechnic dreams. Now 73, Paul Stanley speaks softer, paints canvases, and croons soul standards. The Star Child is grayer, his knees tighter, but his drive still blazes. Off stage, he mentors through music and resilience, not just riffs. Once the soft voice of a turbulent era, James Taylor, now 77, sings like a fireside whisper, weathered but warm. The hair's gone silver, the posture gentler, but Fire and Rain still drifts with earned gravity. More healer than hitmaker now. He writes not for charts, but for clarity. Half of pop's most iconic duo, John Oates, now 76, walks a quieter path. The mustache is trimmed, the fame less frantic, but his guitar still picks with soul. While Hall hits solo arenas, Oates explored roots in Americana, trading platinum pressure for purpose-driven sound. He gave voice to underdogs and dreamers. Then in 2017, Tom Petty's Heart gave out mid-tour. His drawl still echoes through backroads and earbuds alike. Never a showman, always a storyteller, he left with boots on, songs unspoken, and a legacy rooted deep in American dust. He once turned heartbreak into harmony. Now at 76, Jackson Browne's voice is more gravel than gloss, but his message rings clear. The hair is still long, the songwriting sharper. While the industry sped up, he slowed down, favoring truth over trends and ballads over algorithms. From Runaround Sue to blues revivalist, Dion DeMookie, now 86, has morphed more than most. The Bronx swagger mellowed, but the voice still walks gritty alleys of gospel, doo-wop, and soul. No nostalgia act, he reinvents with each record, proving evolution isn't just for the young. Ziggy, the Thin White Duke. 1,000 lives, one legacy. When David Bowie left in 2016, he turned death itself into performance art. From vinyl to stardust, he never aged, he transformed. Black Star was his final gift, a whisper from beyond, reminding us reinvention never dies. Once the golden voice of Blue-Eyed Soul, now 78, Daryl Hall curates sound and space, hosting jam sessions in colonial mansions. The hair is still flowing, the phrasing more measured. No longer chasing hits, he builds legacies, one stripped-down harmony at a time, steeped in craftsmanship. He once rode power ballads into arena air. Now 73, Kevin Cronin leads REO's Speedwagon with a steadier hand. The curls are tamed, the vocals lean more on emotion than range. While FM waves gave way to streaming clicks, he stayed on the road, singing survival like it's still a love song. He once asked, "Where do the children play?" Then left it all behind. Now 78, Cat Stevens as Yusuf Islam, writes with spiritual clarity and quiet force. The beard's white, the mission clear. Less fame, more meaning. His re-emergence bridges faith and folk, turning absence into message. He commanded Wembley with a crown and a clenched fist, then vanished in 1991, voice silenced but immortal. Freddie Mercury's octave range lives on in echoes, his legacy stitched into opera, pop, and power chords. He didn't just front Queen, he ruled the impossible, one note at a time. From Bread's velvet melodies to solo introspection, David Gates, now 84, speaks less but still crafts with tenderness. The falsetto has faded, the arrangements quieter. While soft rock fell out of fashion, his songs remain, gentle reminders that sincerity, too, can leave a mark. Then Versus Now Legends is feeling a bit lonely. 99% of you haven't subscribed yet. Show us some love and hit that subscribe button so we can keep bringing you the jaw-dropping journeys of your favorite stars. And if you're as fascinated by then and now glow-ups as we are, check out our previous videos. Trust us, they're totally worth your time and ours too.